Welcome to NIOS. Dear learners, today in this class we will learn about how the people from outside of India came to Indian land and left their imprints in Indian culture. They came to India as an invaders, as Persian from Iran and the Greek from Macedonia. Students, let us begin our present discussion with Persian invasion and its impact on Indian culture. In the 6th century BC, there were small tribal states in northwest of India. Tribe means basically a group of people who live together and perform same kind of lifestyle. But at that time in northwest India, there was no politically unity in tribal groups at all. The Achaemenid ruler of Persia or Iran took advantage of this political disunity. As a result of that, the founder of Achaemenid dynasty and his successor Darius I attacked over Punjab and Sindh and captured the region. I believe that the captured Indian land was most fertile and populous part of the Achaemenid Empire. Indian people were also employed in Achaemenid army. Students, here the point to keep in mind is that the Persian rule in northwestern India was lasted for 200 years. During this period of time, there must have been close cultural contact between India and Persia. For example, the Persian gold and silver coins have been found in Punjab. Dear learners, in ancient times, valleys and mountains were also used to shorten the distance of journey, and it seems that the Persian invaders Darius entered in India through mountains of north-western border of India. In later times, the same route has been used by the Greek invader Alexander and his army when they invaded Punjab. The 200 years intercultural contact between Persia and India was so deep that the administrative structure of the Mauryan Empire was influenced by Persian Empire. Here an interesting point to remember is that the Persian title of Satrapa or governor continued to be used by the Indian provincial governors as Chhatrapa for quite a long time. The intercultural contacts between India and Persia were very significant on various aspects. The Persian was the people who brought a new style of writing into India. It is called Kharoshthi. It was derived from Aramaic script which was written from left to right. We should also keep in mind that many of Ashokan inscriptions found in northwestern India are written in Kharoshthi. Students, we will discuss in details about the king Ashoka in upcoming discussions. The Kharoshthi script continued to be used in northwestern part of India till 3rd century AD. Dear learners, the Persian influence may also be traced in the preamble of Ashokan Edicts, ASOKN. Dear learners, the Persian influence may also be traced in the preambles of Ashokan Edicts. The modern art and architecture were also greatly influenced by the Persian art. The Persian influence found in Chandragupta Maurya's court Chandragupta Maurya's court was in the form of ceremonial hair bath taken by the emperor on his birthday. It was a typical Persian style. Arthashastra an ancient book written by Kautilya in Mauryan Empire, and it has mentioned in the book that whenever the king consults the physicians or the ascetics. He should sit in a room where the sacred fire was kept. This indicates the influence of Zoroastrianism which was the religion of ancient Iranian. Dear learners, now we will discuss here about another major invasion in India, which is called as the Greek invasion. In this portion, we will also explore about its impact on Indian culture. Students, during the 4th century BC, the Greeks and the Persians fought for the supremacy over the region of West Asia. Achaemenid Empire was finally destroyed by the Greeks under the leadership of Alexander the Great. He captured the regions of Asia Minor, Iraq, and then marched towards India. During that time, India was famous for its wealth and prosperity, and for this wealth, Alexander attacked India. When Alexander was marching towards northwestern border of India, the region was divided into small states. Lack of unity among these small border states of India actually helped the Greeks to conquer this region. Dear learners, here an important point to remember is that during the invasion of Alexander towards India, his army refused to march ahead when they know about the vast army and strength of the king Nanda of Magad. Alexander had to return and he died at a city, Babylon, at young age of 32 on his way back to home. While King Nanda of Magad was Mauryan king who was ruling over India from his capital Magad, which is now in Bihar. King Alexander is an important character in Indian history. His entry to India also helped the West to know something about the Indian life and thinking. It has been said that the ideas and notions of Indian philosophy and religion went to Roman Empire through channel opened by Alexander during his invasion to India in 326 BC. Dear learners, after the invasions in India and the details of Alexander, we will study about Ashoka. He was a great king in ancient India. He actually united this country under his single largest political power. Ashoka is an important character in history of India. His policies as king for peace, non-violence and religious harmony find no match in this world. Ashoka was a unique king who maintained the most powerful state with idealism and morality. It is believed that Ashoka began his reign with war, and he attacked over a place called Kalinga, which is now present in modern state of Orissa. During this Kalinga War, Ashoka encountered with pain of destruction and loss of lives. As a result of this war, he vowed to never participate in any war, as well as he engaged himself in the maintenance and propagation of the idea of no violence. He changed his policy from Digvijay to Dhamma Vijay. Dhamma Vijay means conquest through Dhamma or Dharma. King Ashoka erected long stone inscriptions throughout his state, where his policies were written on the stone pillars as well as on stone slabs. His 13 rock edicts, Ashoka states that true conquest is by virtue. Such a decision taken by King Ashoka, who lived in a time where military strength was the measure of power, gives him a different place in history. Learners, King Ashoka was a true humanist. His policies were made for the welfare of his people. His Dhamma was based on social responsibility, which means he was trying to make a society where rule of law would be same for all and compassion will dominate over society instead of personal greed and narrow thoughts. He was also respecting the social order and giving equal respect to Brahmins and servants, as well as he banned the killings of living beings and his state. Ashoka asked the people to maintain the religious harmony, and he proved himself as a tolerant king. The king Ashoka was himself a Buddhist, but he never imposed his personal religion on his state subjects. As a king, Ashoka always followed the idealism to the rule his kingdom. He saw himself as a father and considered his people as his children. To communicate with his people, he used stone inscriptions on stone pillars and rock surfaces, which are still readable at some places. These edicts are remarkable examples of Mauryan architecture and also of engineering skills. Students, here we need to understand an important view of King Ashoka, that he attempted to educate his people through his public policies, where he pointed out about the wastefulness of expensive rituals. He asked his people to practice ahimsa. He himself stopped the practices of royal hunt and pleasure tours and started Dhamma Yatras or Dharma Yatras, tours for the propagation of Dharma. He has given a common Dharma or Dhamma, a common language and script, Brahmi, to his empire, and thus he brought this whole story towards political unification. Ashoka also sent messages of Dhamma or Dharma to different countries. He sent ambassadors to the Greek kingdoms and the West. Indian culture spread to far away lands. According to Buddhist texts, Ashoka sent Buddhist missions to regions such as Sri Lanka and Central Asia, where Buddhism reached to China, Japan and Vietnam. If we see the social order of Ashokan age, we would find that the Varna system gradually become dominant and acquired important place in society. Due to the emergence of new religion and philosophies, the growth of cities crafts, and trade furthered the progress of cultural unity in our country. Learners, after looking over the political conditions of Ashokan Empire, now we will move towards the Mauryan art and architecture. If we closely look into the Mauryan art, we would find that the Mauryan art has contributed significantly into the development of Indian art. Ashoka has built 84,000 stupas in the respect of the life of Gautam Buddha. Students, for your information, stupa is a place where the relics of Buddha were placed in ancient times, and the Buddhist monks used to worship that place is called stupa. According to a foreign traveler who visited India named as Megasthenes, the Patliputra, a city of Ashoka time, which is in present known as Patna, was matching the cities of Persia in all aspects. Break. Ashokan Edicts, or the stones with roll messages, were inscribed on the stone pillars that were made of single columns of polished sandstone and had capitals on their top. The best preserved of all Ashokan edicts can be seen at the place Lauria Nandgarh. Of Bihar. 32 feet tall column has an almost 50-ton seated loin capital has been placed on his top. This is an excellent example of engineering in ancient India. You will be amazed to know that despite thousands of years, the glow and shine has not lost in Mauryan sculptures. Students, another important aspect of Mauryan architecture is the rock cut caves. The Numash Rishi and the Sudama caves are example of great Mauryan architecture. These caves, cut from solid rock, were provided by Ashoka for non-Buddhist monks. Learners, after having glimpses of Mauryan art and architecture, now we will discuss about post-Mauryan cultural developments. As we have already discussed in previous sections that the Greeks, Shakas, Parthians and Koshnas, I repeat the words, Greeks, Shakas, Parthians, and Kushnas were foreigners, and due to continuous cultural interactions, they were slowly absorbed into Indian population. Since they were the warriors, the lawgivers assigned them the status of Kshatriyas in Varna system. Learners, it should be noted that such a large scale assimilation of foreigners into Indian society took place only in the post Mauryan times. Here we can argue that during period of 200 BC and 3rd century AD, profound changes took place in socio-political and economical aspects of Indian society. This was the time when Indian religion and philosophies migrated to foreign lands, and many foreign rulers adopted Buddhism as well as Vaishnavism. For example, as it is mentioned in West Nagar pillar inscription in Madhya Pradesh, who is also called Heliodorus pillar. Pillar that Heliodorus has adopted Vaishnavism and had described himself as Bhagavata. Similarly, some coins of King Kanishka also show the image of Shiva on them. Students, it is also interesting to know that there were Kushanas rulers who were called as Vasudeva, which is a clear indication of Vaishnav faith. There is another important fact to remember, that is the beginning of Saka era, which was started in 78 AD by King Kanishka. The interaction among different foreign ethnic groups and the Indians played an important role in their choice of one or the other Indian religion. Some foreign rulers also turned into Buddhism, as this did not create the problems of fitting into the caste system. Menanders Menenders converted to Buddhism. Kanishka too is remembered for his services to this religion. However, this increasing popularity of Buddhism brought about a major change in the religion. Buddhism in its original form was too abstract for the foreigners. They therefore advocated a simpler form through which they could satisfy their religion cravings. Around this time, Buddhism split into two schools, Mahayana or the Great Wheel and the Hinayana or the Small Wheel. The former believed in image worship, rituals and bodhisattvas or incarnation of Buddha. Bodhisattvas while the latter continued the practices of earlier Buddhism. The Mahayana received royal patronage from Kanishka, who convened the fourth Buddhist council of to finalize its teaching. He also set up many stupas in memory of Buddhas. Dear learners, now we will discuss about the art and culture as well as the other major kingdoms of ancient India. Central Asian invasions led to further development of Indian art and sculpture. Close contacts with the Western world introduced many new forms in Indian art. The most significant development was the growth of Gandhara school of art. School of art. This school borrowed features from both the Greek and Roman art forms. This assimilation of artistic features was probably because many artisans from different countries trained in different schools came together under the Kushan rule. Mathura, which was the center of the indigenous school of art, was also influenced by the foreign invasions. Dear learners, now we will discuss about the Deccan India. The Satvahana kings of Deccan held an important position under the Mauryas. After the death of Ashoka, they assumed total independence. They became very powerful and made their capital at Paithan or Prathistan on the river Godavari. The Satvahanas soon entered into conflict with the foreign satrapas, especially Shakas. It was under Gautamputra and his son Vasishthaputra Satkarni Satkarni that the Satavahanas became very powerful. They extended their kingdom, cleared forests, made roads, and administered their state well. New towns came up and trade was carried on with far off countries like Persia, Iraq, and Cambodia. Dear learners, now we will discuss about Kharavela of Kalinga. Another kingdom which rose to a position of importance after the Mauryas was Kalinga. Kalinga included modern Orissa and parts of northern Andhra. Its most important ruler was Kharavela. The Hathi Gumfa inscription in a Jain cave at Udaygiri hills would give us a detailed account of his reign, but unfortunately it is not easily decipherable. It is definitely known that he was a great administrator as well as a brave warrior. He carried out works of pity and public utility like building roads and gardens. Dear learners, now we will discuss about South India. The area which lies to the south of the river Krishna, Tungbhadra, is called South India. It was the region of the Cholas, Cheras, and the Pandyas, who were constantly at war with each other. The main source of information about these kingdoms and the life of the people is the Sangam literature. That is why this period from the beginning of the 1st century BC to the end of the 2nd century AD is called the Sangam period of the history of South India. When we study about Cholas dynasty, Karikala was the most important ruler of this kingdom. He defeated the combined forces of the Cheras and the Pandyas. He succeeded in pushing back an invasion from Ceylon. Karikala has been credited with many welfare activities. He got many canals dug so that water from the river Kaveri could be used for irrigation purposes. Karikala patronized works of literature and art. He was a follower of the Vedic religion. After the Cholas and Pandyas empire was founded by a woman king, she maintained a huge army. She also encouraged trade and patronized art as well as literature. Dear learners, now we will discuss about their life and culture. The people during this period lived a simple life. They were fond of music dancing, and poetry. Many musical instruments like drums, flutes, pipes, etc., were popular. Most of the people lived in valleys and a majority of them were farmers. Others were herdsmen. There were artisans and craftsmen also who mainly lived in towns. There were merchants, especially in coastal areas, and trade was carried on by sea. As well as during this time, the Greeks, Kushanas, Shakas, and Parthians were called Yavanas. They soon merged with the Indian society and adopted Indian names and intermarried. Even their coins started carrying the images of Indian gods like Vishnu, Ganesha, and Mahesha. The fact that they had adapted to the Indian society easily may explain why foreign rulers patronized Buddhism. Dear learners, now we will discuss about the age of Harshvardhana. King Harshvardhana decided that he must subdue the petty warring rurals and bring them under his domain. He devoted 6 important years of his life to do so. Hyan Tsang and Banabhat. His court poet has given detailed accounts of Harsha's reign. According to Yuan Tang, King Harshvardhana had an efficient government. He further tells us that families were not registered and there was no forced labor. Do you know that Harsha built many hospitals and rest houses? He also gave grants to many religions, especially Buddhism and Hindu religion. Later in his life, Harsha became more inclined toward Buddhism. Harsha's literary activities had some important plays. Nagananda Ratnavali, and Priyadarshita. He collected learned men around him, as is evident from the report of Hyang Tsang and Banabhat. Bana wrote Harsha's famous biography Harsh Charitra, as well as the literary piece Kadambari. Dear learners, you have read about Satvahanas who controlled the Deccan for a long time. After their decline, many small kingdoms came up in the Deccan. The first one among them was that of Vakakas, who tried to build a strong state, but they did not last long. After the Vakakas came Chalukyas, Vatapi and Kalyani. Pulakesin was a powerful ruler of Chalukya dynasty. Chalukyas kept fighting with the Rashtrakutas towards the north and the Pallavas towards the south. The Chalukya rule came to an end in 753 AD when the Rashtrakutas defeated them. The capital of Vatapi was a prosperous one. There were trade relations with the Arabia, Iran and the Red Sea port to the west as well as with Southeast Asia. Pulakesin too sent an ambassador to King Khusro II of Persia. Chalukyas patronized art as well as religion. They built temples and cave shrines in Deccan hills. Many of the sculptures of the Ellora caves were created at this time under the patronage of Chalukyas and Rashtrakutas. Dear learners, we are ending here the mentioned topic which was on foreign invasions. In next session, we will learn about Gupta and Chola dynasty. If you have any query, you may send email at siglanlanguage@nios.ac.in. For more information, you can visit our website at www.nios.ac.in. I hope you have enjoyed learning this session. Thank you.